Da. There we go. Begone Discord message. Okay, I need to kind of reorient my life here on this desk. Turn that on. Oh, that wasn't helpful. Probably gonna need more rubbing alcohol, so I'll grab some of that. X-Acto knives, I might not need. Okay, so I have this OEM charger here kind of for a specific reason. So let me grab that motherboard. And my tester stuff. Battery. Get this booted up. So with this console, what happens is it's not necessarily a problem, but it's a difference. And when a difference, as far as I can tell, or as far as I'm concerned, if it's different, there's something wrong. So when I plug in the charger, the light turns on, then off. Sometimes maybe the charge port might need work. Ooh. Right now the battery is not in. What it's supposed to do is blink. But currently it just turns on, then off. With the battery, however, charges just fine. And the console does boot up and work. Another sort of consequence of this issue, if you even want to call it that, is if I have the battery in, the console is on, the charger in, if I pull the battery, the console will stay on. Now, that is definitely not normal behavior, but it is kind of an interesting perk of it. I know the schematic refers to like almost like a store unit, which only powers on when the charger is in. I think this is a different case. I wouldn't know what a store unit would look like. I would take that as a rarity comparable to like a dev kit. So I'm going to assume I'm not holding one. This, at least the schematics that I was looking at does not indicate that. So what I did find on Reddit, though, is somebody had a similar issue. The battery was plugged in their unit, so their charging behaved a little differently. Is that when they ran their charging cable on I think it was a 220 volt circuit, they were in the UK, it worked for some reason, versus the 110 outlet that they used. I'm not going to really pretend to understand how all that works, but what I never tried is actually using an OEM Nintendo charger. I've just been using this sort of third-party assembly. My understanding, it shouldn't matter. But let me try. So I'm plugging the OEM one off screen. Battery is out. I won't know if it's charging power, because I don't have a meter for that, but... So yeah, same issue. There's just... I think I just have to do work on the charge port. That's why it sort of flickers erratically, because there's probably a broken solder joint. But it looks like it behaves the same. And I'm going to make the bold assumption that it will charge just fine. Well, I'll assume it charges fine just by the solid orange charge light. Okay, so that yielded no new information. I didn't think it would, but I needed to try it just to see if there was... if maybe the OEM power brick just kicked out a little more juice, so to speak, than a third-party setup via USB-A. And I think this USB-A is charging out of my power brick as well, or charging out of my surge protector. So it's not plugged into my computer. So I really don't know why it's doing that. The pulses, there should be 5-volt pulses coming out of U11 at 2 different legs, is what I found out. And for some reason, it's not producing those pulses. Considering how it reacts as well... What the heck was that? Oh, it was the Wi-Fi board. Considering how it reacts when you yank the battery when the thing's on, I don't think this console can tell if the battery is plugged in. And this is far from a unique case. So what I want to do is look at my other ones that I have. I know I have a couple others that have what I quoted as weird charging issues. Those ones just need solder work. Check. Bad X button. Game card slot. Ooh, that one's rough. Game card slot. Well, that one should be easy. It's just one broken pin. Did I yank that pin? No charge light, flashing charge light. Digitizer connector. I don't know what this problem says. Backlight connector. Okay. Here's one I have labeled as unknown charge issue. I think that's... This is one I've definitely tried working on. Unknown charge issue. Unknown charge port issue. Like, this is definitely a rather persistent problem I haven't nailed down. I probably have more motherboards in here that I just didn't label with a sticky note. Though it's rather redundant since I keep digital records. It does make it a lot easier when sort of picking out boards. So, all of these share something in common. This one might just be a little different. I'm pretty sure they all share the same symptoms. So I'm going to test that. I'm grabbing my tester power board. Now, unlike this last one, that's sort of like my model of a faulty charge light, so to speak. This one hasn't had any work done on it, so it's not as though I did a shoddy job resoldering the U11 chip or screwed with the power management chip. So let's just keep the battery out. I'll just use my USB tester again. Yeah, so it does the same thing. Light comes on, then off. Let me plug the battery in, see if that persists. So in this case, it doesn't even want to charge with a battery in. So this is when it becomes an issue. I'm not going to make any bold statements here, but I'm going to bet that whatever is creating this issue, even though these boards do behave slightly different, where this one does charge, this one doesn't, my bet is that the root cause of the issue is producing the same-ish problem. It could be U11. Like, in this case, it's behaving like it can't detect the battery, but it still charges the battery. And even me saying that sort of contradicts what the charge light indicators mean, because the flashing charge light is just... I don't know if the light coming on then off means... I actually don't know what it would indicate, because a flashing charge light would be it can't detect voltage from the battery. It could be I'm completely wrong, and that the flashing charge light means something different versus the sort of momentary on-off. So let me look at this one. This is another board with a reported similar issue. My notation for unknown charge issue is sort of that. Like that, this is the problem I haven't been able to solve. So, same issue. Charge light comes on, then off. Me jiggling it right there, I think just, again, cold solder joints or something. Put the battery in. So I get nothing. When it does make connection, it blink on and off. So here's another one that won't charge either. So these ones are definitely kindred. I'm wondering if it's just the U11 chip, if just maybe the U11 chips are sensitive to heat, and maybe when I removed and put that new one on that board, it damaged it a little, but not enough to inhibit the charging. I know it, like, I suppose it stands to reason that if one of these consoles had a bad F1 fuse, via right there or downstream of the charge port, and then somebody did this sort of hack job replacing it, or not replacing it, just blobbing solder over it, then a surge could go straight to U11 and fry it. I suppose that would be sort of like the next component down the line that would receive a surge. Same issue. Now, I did replace the power management chip on this one. I think I did a pretty okay job. That wouldn't be responsible for the charging like I thought it would back in the day. That was just me kind of rawing it because I didn't have a schematic at the time. So yeah, regardless, this still has the same issue. Or again, it doesn't charge. So I'm just going to kind of go down the line here until I go through all these. I'm positive that these sort of 5 motherboards all have the same symptoms. The only thing I can really think of is just I can sort of probe into this and see what I can find. I really would like to figure this out. Okay, that was just me moving the charge cable around. Okay. Same issue. Battery in. Okay. So, I don't know how much information I can glean from that Reddit post. What I didn't check, I did kind of want to look at what the problem with this one was. But these ones I think are just, these ones are just going to be different problems. I'll check this one first, and then I'll just maybe just put these ones aside. These are probably different. No. Be gone, bot. This one reports no charge light. Curious. Charge port looks fine. So this one is a different problem. I'll come back to it. It might just be as easy as fuse blown. I can even just check that real quick. No, fuse is good, but the problem for later. So let me bring up the board schematic again. Need to kind of untangle my leads from my multimeter anyway. They're much longer than I think I really need. Alright, schematic. Oops. Good luck, thank you. No, I don't want to sign in. This pops up so much crap. There we go. What I'm looking for is P17. Now I did look at one console where the connection from P17 to U11 was impacted by a corroded via. So let me just check. Grab a couple things here. Stupid suction cup. So I need to check from the positive battery connector to those two legs on the bottom of U11. Turn down the light on that. So it should be continuous from this bottom leg down here all the way up to these two pins. And it isn't. Okay. It looks like this battery connector was replaced. I'm going to try and go on the pad behind the connector. And I'm not getting anything. Okay, so let me rule out the connector here. Plug in the power board, just the main battery connector. That little fella right there. And then I will check from test point. Ooh, you can almost kind of see it. Looks like something's going on right next to test point 17. That might be the entire problem right there. I'm not going to make any determinations right now, but I need to go from test point 17. So these are going to be the positive, just the vias coming out of test point 17. They show back up here, which you can kind of tell the board is a little grimy. So if test point 17 shows up right here, then that line is good. Well, actually, I'm one step ahead of myself. I need to go from the positive on the power board to test point 7, not 17, but 7. That'll ensure that my connector is good. But if those vias looking rough, then it might even be the vias. So I might have to even take a step further back and go from just the positive battery connector to behind the plug. Which one was positive again? I don't remember. Okay, it looks like my solder job was good. So that means perhaps those vias are a little corroded. Or I guess I can't even say this was my solder job. I don't know. It could have came like that. But those are on there pretty good. Let me check other parts though. So from test point 7, it goes to that part right there. And then it goes across this entire rail to those two vias right there. So it's just going to be checking to see if that rail is still intact. Which, yeah, this via over on my red lead is crunchy. I'm not getting anything across that rail, so I'm guessing it's a couple vias that are bad. All right. So that does give me hope, but it doesn't necessarily answer my question for the other console, which charges just fine. So I need to sort of see what happens when I bring this console, or when I get those vias back going. So I guess I am going to need my razor blades after all. Let me kind of get set up here. So let me start from the positive vias coming out of the battery connector, which are going to be that cluster of 4 right there. Now it looks like it's quite worse on the other side. The tops of those vias look good. What's interesting is I don't remember via TP9. I just need to sanity check something. That's interesting. So here's another DSi Excel board, which I know works. Fully works, great shape. I had it set aside just for some reason. The test points for test point 17. Oh, no, I'm stupid. Okay. Test point 7, test point 7. Okay, I wasn't looking down far enough. Never mind. So, let me get that. So those are the 4 vias coming out from the positive. I'm just gonna plug in the power board again and just double check with test point 7. I'm so dumb. Okay, that doesn't look good though. Looks like just a little bit of rust was on this board. It doesn't look bad. I've definitely seen worse, but if it's eating away some of these vias, that's kind of a problem. So test point 7 from positive, I'm getting nothing. So I'm guessing these are the problem. All right. Let me sort of set up for soldering. Grab a paper towel. So the only thing I can guess as to why sort of these outer fringe areas are getting impacted by water damage is that's the edges of the bottom screen. Like if I were to stage a bottom screen down there or on this console, these test points would be sort of on the edge. So what I'm going to do in no real specific manner is cut away all of this solder mask from these vias and then just blob some solder on them. See if I can just get them to grab on to enough contact to make a point. And it is entirely possible that this what I didn't check, let me just scrape away some of this via. It looked a little crusty. What I didn't check is it is entirely possible that the trace from the cluster of vias to the test point is broken. Because those vias look pretty good. So let me just check that real quick. Just from the vias to the positive. Okay, I have connection. So it's just from this test point. The test point itself is broken. I probably won't be able to really see that without a better microscope. I am curious though, so I might try and scrape away. If there's even any trace left to scrape. I might have to... Yeah, you can kind of see how the shimmering of the vias don't... It's really hard to tell. Not without a better microscope. Let me check through an eye loop. Yeah, it does kind of look like it's not important. This is just a test point. So it not being connected to the circuit shouldn't matter to the extent of my knowledge. So now that I confirmed that at least from the via cluster to the positive on the power board, I do get a continuous signal. The test point isn't connected. I could just bridge that tiny gap with solder if it really bothers me. So now we need to go from this continuous via cluster and see if I can get connection to that via. So I wasn't getting anything, so I'm trying to see if I can expose any type of copper in there. Because if this via is completely eroded out, I don't entirely know if I can connect to the positive plane. The positive plane is an inner layer. Like, ooh, that's not looking good. Positive. Oh, I am getting something. Now, does this travel over to the other via cluster? No, so this via I think is disconnected. That seems to be sort of a common failure point right there. Like, this is not the first time I've seen this. Very specific issue. Where this via isn't connected to the board anymore. I just have to check something here. My third monitor that I use isn't turning on. Here we go. Extend, duplicate 2 and 4. There we go. So I need to scrape away enough of this so I can connect everything with solder. So I'm going to make the bold assumption that this is just like right on the edge of where the bottom screen sits, and just maybe just this particular via is just really prone to water damage. Solder mask is good stuff. Might need a new blade on this X-Acto knife. Let me turn down the light. I already did. Yeah, because it almost looks like that via is just completely gone, but I am getting a signal through there. Just a lot of this crud that's on the solder mask. It comes off. Let me check the via on the other side because I'm going to need to solder that wire to it. Ooh, yeah. What I might want to try is maybe use a thicker gauge wire to maybe just see if I can just wedge it in there. Now this via isn't connected, so I need to be kind of careful. If I can just rub off... Oh, I'm seeing shiny. I don't want to chip off the solder mask, but if I can just sort of get the copper to be exposed, I can solder to it. Yeah, this is looking a lot better. Like, even if I can't get to the via on the other side of the board, I can definitely connect it right here. Feel like a dentist. I got a little bit of it. It might be enough. I can definitely just... I can worry about that later to see kind of just how this works. Take off this power board so it's not in my way. So right there is my quarry. Let me check my spare wire I have here. I know I have some thicker gauges. I think this white wire that I used for a GameCube might be even thicker. White and green. I don't remember if my this green wire, what gauge that was. Let me just take my calipers to it. If I remember how to measure gauge. That's 6 gauge? 0.6 of a millimeter in diameter. Ooh. A little too thick. Try this white wire. See if it's any better. I need like 1 gauge down. 5 gauge? Where's this white wire at? White wire's the same. The gauge I had success with is 0.2 of a millimeter. Let's see what I got. Oh yeah, I 100% don't remember how to measure gauges. This is 28 gauge, this is 26 gauge. Let me check the diameter for this black wire. I need like, I think I said I needed about 0.5. Here's 0.4 of a millimeter. I just really want to get it nice in there. Not too much slack. Okay, it goes in there pretty good. Like, this is pretty close. I'd be pretty happy with that. So then I need... Let's see what else I have. Well, I think 28 gauge was the too thick. Here's an exposed end. That's 0.3 of a millimeter. So I need smaller number. This blue wire is 24 gauge. Strip it down. Did I just clip it? 24 gauge is 0.5 of a millimeter. Yeah, okay. Try it one more time, but it looks like it's just a little too thick. So 0.4 of a millimeter I think is sort of the best, which is 26 gauge. I think that's just going to be my easiest sort of point of entry for these videos. Keep my wire strippers out. Get my solder iron going. So this should make a snug enough connection in the via that even if I can't get it soldered in completely, it should still touch all the sidewalls. I'm going to strip it all back so I don't have to worry about this whatever you would want to call it, the wire sheath melting. My solder. And really, that could be all that's needed. I'm doubtful, because that hasn't worked before. That the solder just kind of sits at the surface, it doesn't actually go all the way down. There's a first time for everything. Yeah. So still no connection, so it didn't go down, as I kind of expected. Alright, that wire is in. And now I gotta deal with this little bugger. I'm gonna cut it flush, because I'm a lot more concerned about it being raised up right here. Right above it is where the lower display ribbon is. The back I don't care so much. Just hope I can get a blob of solder on there. Bump up my iron heat. That doesn't really look like it's grabbing onto it. It looks like I'm just tinning the end. I'm not exactly wanting to do. But that might work. Especially since I used a heavier gauge, it might not be inclined to wiggle around as much. I don't want to scratch around too much there, because that's an isolated via. So what I did confirm is that I do have continuity all the way to that point now, since I'm in the via. Check again. Okay, I'm good. That point's a little concerning, but that doesn't look like it's an important via. Since I'm here, I'm just gonna bridge that little bridge up to test point 7, just so I don't have to worry about me accidentally putting my probe onto it and wondering why I'm not getting connection anymore. Come on, you know you want it. Oh, that might do it. I think it's just a little tiny bridge. That's really all I need it for. Doesn't need to be crazy. Yep. Let me trim this. Get everything cleaned up. Yeah, look at that. So cute. Little tiny blob of solder. That's all I need it for, just to basically keep that test point, or keep the functionality of that test point. So if I have to test it in the future, I'm not wondering why I'm not getting continuity to that test point. But I'm sort of catching on that this seems to be a corrosion area for these boards. Meaning that it's fairly common for that test point not to be connected. I guess I can't say fairly common, but this is definitely the second time I've seen it, which is a little... One time is an oddity, 2 times is a pattern. Okay, and I did do a continuity check across the whole rail. I am getting continuity to those vias. So now the ultimate test is going from the power board all the way to U11 to see if I'm getting a full continuous from the positive to U11. So I go from the positive point right there on the battery connector to U11. I'm getting continuity all the way to it. Perfect. Sort of shove that aside. So now the real test. Let me get the battery connector fully, or the battery board fully in. Then let's grab my charging cable and see if I get a flashing orange charge light. Look at that. Real test. Does it charge? Put a battery in it. USB tester is over here. Yep. Solid orange charge light. So that's the problem. Just a corroded via. Why that has any that without knowing what each of these pins do, it's possible on the unit I did repair but still charges. I'm wondering if maybe either pin 9 or pin 10 isn't connected. Because I don't think I'm going to be able to look up a sheet for this exact component. Curious, because there are 2 pins. So one pin controls the charging, another might control the light. No charging issue. Let me, before I circle back to that board to test that theory, let me sort of get this board put into my records here. So what I'm going to do is grab the serial number and just write down what I have. I'll bring that up here in a second once I find this board. 0411 612 U01E U01E3SP. I think I did not put this board in. Okay, it has to be this board. I missed a digit. Okay. So it was E3SP. Okay, yeah. No, I just put this. I missed the 3 in my digits when I was putting these in. So it's this board right here. Alright, so let's look at this. Let's look at this feller. Turn off my microscope. Unknown charge error. That's kind of what I was talking about. Light turns on, then off. I'm going to have that sort of be no F1 fuse. In this case, I was sort of thinking that maybe it was a power surge blowing U11, which was why it was behaving strange, but in this case, it was just via. Oh, this was the one I changed the power management chip on? That doesn't seem right. I thought I did that on another board. So that would explain why that area is kind of crispy. Yeah, the one I noted that I changed the power management chip on is a different board. Oh, tried to replace the resistor next to the power management chip. Oh, never mind. Okay, that actually kind of explains why it's kind of crispy in that area. Let me bring up the microscope. think I see exactly my handiwork. It's sort of that blobbed guy right there. Probably works. I mean, it's definitely no crazy good job, but hey. I never tested to see if this board powers on. But let me just sort of US repaired. Turned off. Routed via from battery plus to U11. No F1 fuse? Oh, no F1 fuse. I did not replace that because I'm guessing this is somebody was trying to replace or trying to fix this thing, because right there's just a wire bridging it. I wonder if I did that. No, I don't think I had wire like that back when I started. This is definitely not my handiwork. So somebody bridged that fuse. Well, it would... I'm not trying to complain, but I don't really want to do that. I'm kind of sort of on the road to trying to figure out what the this charging issue is. Sort of finding a good resolution. But yeah, it shouldn't take that much time to do this real quick. I'll readjust my light. I do have my fuses right here, just a little baggie of them. Let's see. Why do I have one in tape? Is this even a fuse? What is this? I don't know what that is. Oh, that might be a fuse. Well, okay. Let me check it. I have it suspended in tape, which means I must have pulled it off thinking it was faulty, but then checking it out of circuit, it was not, or it had continuity. I don't know what that means, or why I did that. Let me get rid of this screen. So, testing components this tiny out of circuit is very difficult. I have it on tape, so I shouldn't launch it to Kingdom Come when I put probes on it. Okay, I'm getting continuity through it, so this fuse is good. Pretty sure I wouldn't have put it in my F1 fuse baggie if I didn't know it was a fuse. I'm thinking whether or not I want to use it, because it's not like I'm starving for F1 fuses. Like hell, I bought 100 of them for just a few dollars, so... I don't know why I removed this one. I really don't. I don't remember. But I think because it's still good, I might as well use it. Like, because I'm pretty sure just fuses work on the principle of they either work or they don't. They don't like kinda not work or kinda work. They either do or they don't. The wire out. It almost kind of... I'm guessing it's not green anymore because I probably bathed it in flux. That looks pretty good. I think I'm just going to put a little more solder on them. It's a little lopsided, but it'll do the job. Check to make sure my connection's good. Yep. I don't know why I had just a loose F1 fuse, but I brought it back home. Congratulations, DSiXL. You have an OEM fuse for whatever that for whatever that's worth. Some nooks and crannies, so I'll get my brush in there. Voila. Okay. So I will put F1 fuse replaced. I'll keep that note that I tried to replace the resistor. I'll bring that back up. I'll keep the note that says I tried to replace the resistor. I think that was just benign. I just replaced a good resistor with a good resistor, but since it was next to the power management chip, is now sort of does the console boot. So let me grab tester components. Where is my Wi-Fi board for my testers? Ah, here it is. Because I am now sort of the impression that the power management chip doesn't have anything to do with the actual charging circuit, at least to the degree that I've been testing. I'll keep the schematic, I'll just turn that off. I might have to go through all of my bottom screens again. I think just some of them are just a little too worn out from me fatiguing these ribbons more than they've been designed to do. And probably turn off my microscope. Wah! Why to do that? Oh, my phone disconnected. That's rude. Why did you do that? Oh no, my name, John Appleseed. Camo, why did you do this? Why are you doing this to me? I didn't get an Amber Alert. Oh, what a pain. Fine, I'll force close you and reopen you. How about that? Yes, indeed. Came in right when my stupid camera app decided to nope out of existence. Because I'm using my cell phone as a webcam, so I have an application that records that records through my camera phone and then goes through OBS, but it's deciding to be a chore. Ever since I've updated this damn thing, it's been causing me just stupid problems. Allow. I need to find like an older version of this and just refuse to update it. There we go. Tech issue couldn't be you, I know. This is less tech issues, it's just this one software. I decided to update it, and ever since I updated it, it's just been being a pain in the ass. Because now it doesn't let me swap resolutions. Like right now it looks like shit. Let me deactivate it. I don't think it's going to allow me to swap resolutions. No, it doesn't let me swap resolutions when I'm in OBS because I think this program caught on that people were just using this as sort of like an OBS jumping point, but they're like, no, screw OBS, use our tech instead. So we're going to try and gatekeep your shit. I just need to go the vertical 720p. I'll handle 720p for now. I don't really care. I'd like 1080, but I'm not going to close out of OBS just so I can... Now, why isn't it... Oh, because I should just auto-enable that. So it just stops asking me that same question. But I do kind of like the having that, not having full permissions for my camera through my USB. Yes, it will be a DSi motherboard once I get, hopefully, this figured out. Okay, so I might have to delete this video capture input so then I can maybe see if I can get this into thinking that I don't have a... Remove. Yes. Oh, I don't want to remove that one, though. Okay. Wonder, how did I get it through last time? Do MSI device. well, goddamn this fucking stupid piece of software. I'm gonna have to look for an older version of this software so I can get rid of all this bullshit they added. Can I even salvage this? Well, it's just gonna have to be stupid for a little bit. Man, why is it like weirdly blurry? Oh, I think it's trying to erase the background. Because this is like the Zoom meeting profile. It's software called Camo Studio, and it works perfectly fine. Unable to. It's just so they've just progressively made it worse because they're trying to get people to stream exclusively through Camo Studio and not OBS. Pause. Oh god, that's awful. Let's see. Unable to switch screens with different aspect ratio. Oh. Alright. That sucks. That's just gonna have to be how it is because I can't swap my resolution until I exit out of OBS. So, it's gonna be stupid. That's just how it is. Good Camo Studio. I love you. Can I at least rotate it 90 degrees? Counterclockwise. There. That's gonna be awful. That's just how it is. Where the hell was I? Okay. So I have this console charging again. At least it's not blurry. Yeah, it's not trying to erase the background. Because that's what trendy Zoom people did back during the shutdown. Well, I guess nowadays. Lord forbid you know what's in my background. I keep my social security card just propped up on my shelf. Okay, thinking. Did I put in the Wi-Fi? Yes, I did. Or how far I can get my camera up. Ooh, I'll just have to be how it is. Wow, I don't remember that bottom screen being that yellow. But, looks like it works. Running 1.4.1, I'll format it. Yeah, apparently I just keep naked anime ladies in my back. What is even behind me? Oh, well, I have a bag of nuts. I guess you could see that as being anti-woke. Why not? I don't know. Okay, this console's running 1.4.1U. I know, nuts, eh? It's mostly peanuts, so it might be seen as discriminatory against large nuts. Which large nuts matter too, not just the small nuts. All nuts matter. Alright, I'm gonna pin this motherboard as good. This one's 04. Where is it? Should be right there, shouldn't it? It must be this one. I don't know why it... Well, let's see. I got cashews, almonds, pistachios, and pecans. No walnut. No walnuts. I do like my almonds, though. Almonds are good. Wow, this is taking a long time to format. But I do supplement those. Oh, I forgot I even had Nightbot on. I have pretty much all the bots married to my channel because I do testing stuff for Jake. And I forget that some of them are married. But I'll supplement my giant mixed nuts with more peanuts. Not only just to kind of make it last, but peanuts are kind of fun because you chew them in your mouth and then it turns into peanut butter and it just tastes good. What can I say? I'm simple. Mixing nuts is dangerous. Don't want to dilute the nut. So let me get back just to make sure I'm putting the right board. Okay, so let me move this board to my main pool of motherboards and my digital records. I'll put a bit of Kapton tape on. Just a little bit of a protection over my little solder joints that I made. Hey, cool. Now I at least have a valid fix for that motherboard. So now I want to look back at this one. So I do have a theory that it's because one of the legs on either leg 9 or leg 10 of the U11 chip isn't soldered on correctly. I did solder this one on maybe a little for better or for worse. Man, these are real freaking tiny. My poor little microscope was not made for joints this small. Like, it's entirely possible that that leg 10 isn't on, but it's really hard to tell. I don't even... I might be able to get my iron in there. Well, nothing ventured. Goober up a little end. Let's see if I can get anything in there. Because if it's leg 10 that controls the orange light blinking, that's kind of wild. You'd think that would almost be... Oh. Maybe it's just because that's just how that generic part works. I don't think Nintendo Specialty makes these chips. I think they just adapt chips they have on the market. Just weird for that to be an external pin. But I'm not going to pretend to understand enough. I don't think I'm getting in there. Yeah, I can't tell. I can try it, because maybe I did. Because I don't think I can reasonably test that pin independently. I guess now I'll try plugging in the charger, see if I get a flashing light. And I'm not going to rule out the fact that I may have damaged that chip by... No, it's still behaving the same. So I know my connection line from my positive terminal to U11 is good. Maybe I can just see if I can get the legs. Can't hear my meter when I have my fume extractor on. So it is going to both 9 and 10. So if it's going to both of those legs, that sort of rules out the theory that one of the two legs isn't connected. No, running resistance wouldn't work. The only thing I could really do is just try and reflow the whole thing. Or if I can double magnify here. Never actually tried that. Zoom! Not really. As far as I can tell, all the joints are on. Yeah, maybe. I guess it's the principle of magnification, just layers of glass. I know I have that big blob of solder there, but it shouldn't be bridging anything. Doesn't look like it. And then that's pin 4. That shorts the ground. It kind of looks like it's... I can just check all those pins to see if any of them are shorting to ground. That might be my problem, is I just maybe don't have that chip on correctly, and one of those legs is grabbing onto the massive ground plane that's underneath it. That's entirely possible. That's far more plausible than a more convoluted issue. None of those are shorting the ground. So, like, even this ground plane isn't even... Oh, never mind. I'm stupid. Pin 4, which does short the ground. It's supposed to do that. So none of the other pins are grabbing ground. Try these pins again. So, yeah, so none of my... I'm positive I checked this when I installed this chip. So if pin 4 isn't connecting to ground, I'm just going to try and do this again. Grabbing the little pin. Both 9 and 10 are shorting to the positive, which is what it's supposed to do. So I don't know why this one behaves the way it does. I think that's just going to be an unsolved mystery for now. Until, like, I have the balls to replace that U11 chip again with a known working one, possibly sacrificing a good board. What the hell happened to the sticky note I had for this feller? Oh, it's probably one of these. Alright, here it is. Make sure I mark everything again. So I'll look at one more board, and then I'll try and fix my stupid camera setup and download an older version of Camo so I don't have to deal with their bullshit again. So here's another unknown charge issue. I'm guessing just based on what that VIA looks like. Looks like the issue is going to be the same as the last board. Spots of corrosion and probably rust on the bottom screen. So this one I say I replaced the power management chip and component E1. I wonder if I meant EM1. Any hints to that? Unless I did a really good job. Yeah, that looks like a lot more solder than usual, so that's possible I did try to replace that. Because that was back when I was trying to figure out what was wrong. Obviously unsuccessful. So let me get it sort of plugged in just to confirm the problem. Power board. Where'd you go? I have the battery. Oh, here it is. Come on now. Alright, so let me get my charging cable. Okay, light on, off. Well. The battery plugged in, my USB tester is not saying it is getting any voltage. Methinks it's going to be that VIA again. So let me just try and get continuity test from the positive to that VIA. Let me go to the test point 7 first. Okay, I have continuity to the test point 7 from the positive pad on my power board. But I'm getting nothing here. Alright. That is becoming a somewhat common issue for this problem. So my guess is this VIA is just in the perfect spot. It's probably right underneath the edge of the bottom screen. And when kids pour their sugary drinks on their DSs because, I don't know, reasons. It'll send them to space or maybe grant them a wish, whatever goes through a child's mind. Whatever fluid is poured on just trickles down straight into this via and just eats away at the copper. Pure speculation, but that's... I'm finding this via to be a problem. In a lot of... I think this is the third or fourth time I've tried fixing this. Problem here is I can't get anything. Like, usually I can get a connection sort of deep within this via, but... I got nothing. So let me try and... let me try and penetrate it with the big, thick black wire. Ew. I think I... Okay. Oh, I think I have a little bit of solder on the end of this wire from the last project. There we go. I'm going to see if I can get a connection now. It should be touching the internal layer of the motherboard. Hopefully that via is still intact. Ooh. I'm not getting anything. Am I on my... my multimeter is working. Not being weird. Try and put some pressure on it to see if I can just get it to really hug the side of the... Ooh, okay, Because if I can't get it to connect to that positive plane, I might have to run a really long wire, which is not something I want to do. What the heck happened there? Why is C92 looking like that? That's a capacitor. I wonder if that has any problems with the screen. It's weird. I don't know why that capacitor is just kind of free floating like that. I don't think that's anything I did. Kind of feels like it probably was, but I'm not worried about that right now. Let me move my light. Let's see if I can get any sort of glisten from this via on this side. Yeah, so it looks like this part of the via is still good. So I think my theory has some basis. That just maybe a little bit of water damage gets on that side of the via and just eats it away. Okay, let me do continuity from this side of the via to the positive end. Ooh, come on. Do we got nothing still? Uh-oh. I think the only thing I can think of doing is just trying to solder to it and just seeing if solder will stick to if I can get anything to stick to the positive plane. I got nothing. Like, I think this via is just completely gone. Or it's not connected to the positive plane, which I think is the middle layer of this board. Which is not good, because I can't really connect to that. Alright, well, nothing ventured. I'll try and see if I can connect to it with the wire. Just hope I can just get solder to grab onto something in there. You know what, I'll put a little bit of flux on the end of the via to see if I can like push down a little bit of flux into this hole. This is lewd. Viewer's discretion is advised. I'm jamming goo in the hole. Because if there is a little bit of corrosion in there, I'm just going to try and see if I can just melt it off with flux. And maybe just this sort of mechanical action of penetration is enough to sort of rub off that corrosion. Or I can just put my syringe in on the via and just blast some in there. Don't know if that would work. Oh, yeah, it did a little. Okay. So, I am doing something. Let me cut off a little more of the wire protection. Ugh. Holy hell, I didn't really mean to do that, but I will take it. Mm, basically yanked off all the insulation. I didn't quite want to do that, but you know what? It'll work. Okay. Should be enough flux on there. Ooh, I have an idea. I wonder if it would be worth me trying to jam solder paste in there. Because I need to get solder in there. I'm guessing it's just going to sort of bubble out. But I have to try. So solder paste is just a bunch of solder balls suspended in fluid. Very small solder balls. If I can get some in there, I might be able to grab onto that positive plane again. Don't know if this will work, but I have to try. I'm working in, I suppose you could say, the worst case scenario for this problem. Like, if it gets any worse than this, then I just have to basically junk the board. If it's starting to corrode the positive plane, then hopefully it's just at this via and not anywhere else. Right, well, nothing ventured. Try and get it nice and hot. Okay. Grab the other side. Here it is. That might do it. Oh yeah, since I'm here, try and see if I can get this little capacitor bolstered up. There we are, that looks a lot better. Before I start cleaning that up, I'll just check to see if this was a successful operation. From the positive on the battery connector to just the end of this wire. Oh, I am getting nothing. So if I can't connect to that inner via, that is unfortunate. I am getting continuity across the rail, so I know that the via is connected to that rail, just not... It's not going through the board. Well, gosh darn. I know a lot of these points don't look that good, but... I never confirmed if this goes through the... This does connect the... The only thing I can think of is if these vias aren't connecting to the positive plane. I really have no reason to suspect that to be the case. Usually you can just go off of that based off of sort of a visual assessment. Let me look at the schematic again. I wonder if there's another point I can sort of look at. Resistor 71. I wonder where that is. That might be located to the U3 chip, which I think is the power management. So it might be around here somewhere. Oh god. And 71. Them not being labeled very well isn't helpful. Because this would rule out that the... I'm not going to find those resistors over there. That component right there is kind of knocked out. Let me grab a good board. Try to see which one is resistor 71. I wonder if it's this little tiny guy next to the power management chip. So I think it's this big guy right here. Okay. That one's connected to the positive plane. Or I guess I could have done pin 30 on the power management chip. I suppose that was also an option. So if I can connect to this from the positive battery connector, that does mean that, yeah, the positive plane at least is somewhat intact, and those vias behind the test, or those vias right next to the test point are still connecting to the positive plane. So I'm guessing just the via right there is just corroded away. And I can't connect onto the positive point. I think the only thing I can think of doing is just trying to heat it from the back, or just try and heat it with my hot air station and just trying to see if I can get that, just get it hot enough to just let solder flow into that via. That's the only thing I can think of. Aside from that, I'm going to very heavily consider just junking this board out. Because if it's corroded that bad to eat away through an entire via, then I don't know if it's worth trying to repair and sell. Try not to melt my camera. I put a shitload of heat into that. Okay, let me try again, see if I get anything. Nothing. So it's not connecting to the positive plane in there. Poop. Okay. I'll try and put maybe a little more solder on top. See if it'll try and just suck it down. I need to snip this wire a little bit, so it's not trying to heat up this entire wire. I think that's pretty much everything that I can do. At least that's everything I can think of doing. I'm still not connecting onto the positive plane. Man, dude. So, I'm gonna have to run a jumper. Just to confirm the fault. And if the console works fine, otherwise I may just leave it as such. Just have a jumper wire on it. Yeah, because I'm connected to that other via very well. Man, that sucks. Okay, well, I'll use a thinner wire. I need to see how it fits in the board to see if a jumper wire might be better on the back of the console. Yeah, because I don't want it. I wish my chat would stop refreshing like that. Thanks, Twitch. You're real cool. I don't want it interfering with the top screen, or the bottom screen, I mean. Even though I would be putting tap down tape on it. I don't have an... Yes, I do. No, I do not. Okay. Never mind. So I guess I can do is just clean this up. Snip this wire as flush as I can. So I'll run a jumper along the back of the console, I think. I think it won't impact the bottom screen. I just don't want it to get caught in the shell or create weirdness. But where am I going? Right there. Just gonna check it one more time. Test point 7. You know, if I do, either I can run a wire all the way down to the positive, which I think would, or at least just tack it on to test point 7. I think that might be the easiest. I was thinking how I could maybe, this is maybe a little overkill. I feel like I could have made it look, I could make it look a little prettier and attach it to the positive end of that resistor. But I think this will look a little better. This will do just fine. Red wire too, so it'll look pretty. Like it belongs. I'll just do, that is way too much. Do not need a big goober of solder on the end of this iron. Maybe I did. Yeah, that's on there pretty good. I'll trim the end so it doesn't look like it's touching that via. I don't think it is. So then I run all the way down. I'm going to run it parallel. Then I'm just going to sort of squeak 90-degree, squeak it over. I guess I might as well just start taping it now, so I can get it kind of in the shape that I want. Do need a smaller stretch of tape though. And then I just got clip and strip. need to reestablish a little trash area. I don't have bits of wire everywhere. More than I already have. I need to tin up that test pad. Get a good old solder blob on it before I can do anything right there. Kind of like that. And I'll scrunchie this wire into position. I want a little more of a solder blob than that. That's better. Look at that, feller. Alright. So I'm going to go from the positive on the battery board up to those two vias right there. They're kind of covered in solder mask. I don't know if I can really grab onto them. Maybe if I poke down in there. Okay. So now I am getting full continuity between these 2 points, as I probably should be because I have a wire stretching between them. Get it all nice and cleaned up. Let me just kind of nip the real end of this wire off. That's better. It's all contained within that positive plane. What's going on right there? Oh, I must have accidentally touched it with a little bit of solder. No problem there. This whole area is going to be covered in cap down tape. Check the other side. I'm really kind of bummed this didn't work, but... Or it's sort of a more nicer vanilla looking fix didn't work. Alright, so let me... Just gonna... highlight the LED. I'm gonna plug in my charger. See what happens. Look at that. Normal behavior. Light flashing. Okay. Let me get it in a rig and see if it pulls anything. Solid orange charge light, and it is pulling a charge. So as far, yeah, it's looking to be that issue where it doesn't pull power is due to just no continuity between the positive and component U11. That seems to be consistent. So let me get it in a test rig. See if it powers on. And all that jazz. And then I think I'll call it good there. I'm going to look for an older version of camo that doesn't give me issues. Let me cover up my solder joints with a little bit of Kapton tape, just so I don't have any issues crop up because of it shorting against something. Right. Yeah, it looks like this bottom screen's going to be sitting right on top of it. I don't think it's going to matter. It's a pretty small wire. But just to sort of confirm here, let's plug it in. Pulling a charge on my USB tester. And solid orange light. Turn it on. Power's on. Ooh, this one has Four Swords Anniversary. Nice. An error has occurred when launching programs. I can't go in the settings because an error has occurred. Ooh. Just gonna take out the Wi-Fi board and put it back in. I'm hoping this... Alright, let's see if I can go back in the settings. An error has occurred. I'm gonna have to go probably look into this one a little later. I have... Well... Let me just look at my notes. I think it might be as easy as just using another Wi-Fi board. But I'm gonna make the bold guess. There is a corrosion-based issue. Let me check what I got. An error has occurred when opening any program. And it is 100% Wi-Fi card. Let me grab another one then. It's either the Wi-Fi little card or an associating connection to the Wi-Fi card. Here's another one. And I have heard that different Wi-Fi boards have different like BIOS versions that don't quite work with every motherboard. I haven't quite proven that, but a very smart person said that, so I'm going to trust that they know a lot more than I do. Another error has occurred. Let me try one more, and then I might just have to shelf this issue. It might be something like I need to reflow the port. Or it might be more complicated, like trying to nail down what exactly is going wrong. Here's a third Wi-Fi board from Surplus. But I want to kind of look at the plug real quick. I do kind of see some... Let me reorient it. That's probably the issue right there. Some of those solder joints are probably corroded away. Or maybe they're just dirty. Well, let me check the board on a boot. This will be the third board. And all these boards are from DSi XLs. So I don't think that matters. Error has occurred. Okay. I think I'll deal with this board later. I'm going to call it good for now, so I can get my camera setup fixed. Because my next step would be reflowing that port. Seeing if I can get it to work. So yeah, I'm just going to have to do some cleanup off screen, get this red wire a little more stable, more tape on it. Yeah, and I think that's it. I think that's where I will call it. Interesting that I was able to nail down a solution to that problem. I guess I sound far less enthusiastic than I actually am. I'm just still rather perplexed by my other console that exhibits that issue but charges. So I'm not 100% sure why. But that's just going to have to be more me probing and seeing if I can come up with a solution to that. And who knows, it could just be I damaged U11 by putting it on, which if I can't replicate, if I don't find a console that has that issue replicated, then it's more likely that I caused that issue by just swapping the chip, or maybe that chip was bad. It did come off a junk board. Maybe it was fried with the rampant corrosion that was on. I don't remember what board I took it off of. It was either the board that had a crack in it because it was bent, or it was so heavily corroded that that board just wasn't worth trying to use. I don't even know if it booted. So I'll just have to just chalk it up to possibly that U11 being bad, or yeah, I don't know. I could sit here speculating, but it really doesn't change anything. But I will call it there.